Hello, 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 and welcome to the Yvonne Michelle Show, previously called the After Dark Show. I still keep referring to it as After Dark, but it takes time to get out of one habit into another, doesn't it? So, how are we this evening? I hope that you are all doing fine. So, before we even get started, what I want you to do is notify your friends, your family, your frenemies, anybody, and let them know that tonight the show is on and we are going to be talking very openly and candidly tonight. It is going to be a fiery subject. I think emotions are quite high, especially within the community, the African Caribbean community. I think, lots and lots of people have got lots and lots of thoughts about what has been going on around us. And so tonight, I have a few guests on board, and I'm just going to ask everyone, whoever is on, please let me know who you are. Put your names on the thread, and we will give you a shout out tonight. It's a very, very special show. Tonight's show is a 2-hour show, by the way. We reduced the show down to 1 hour, but tonight we are talking about child Q. Yes, we are. It is something that we found. I think it's necessary. It's not what was scheduled to for the conversation for tonight. We weren't going to talk about this tonight, but in light of everything that's going on, my guests felt that this was the more important subject to talk about, and really to try and find some solution. So I know that we're going to be talking about what's been going on. There's been protests, there's been things said in the Houses of Parliament as well. But also we want to find solutions. How can we safeguard our children? How can we do that? And I want you to have that question in your mind throughout this show. How can we now safeguard our children when they're at school? Because clearly, very, very clearly, we need to put some things in place. So, good evening, good evening, good evening to those of you who are just joining the show, those of you who are on Facebook, those of you who are in the After Dark group, the private group, those of you who are on YouTube. Good evening, good evening, good evening, and welcome to the show. Good evening, Lorraine. How are you doing? Lovely to see you here. Lovely to see you here, Arlene. So, guys, put your comments on the comment thread. So as we begin to get started for tonight's show. Now, before we get started, I'm going to say to you, go and get yourself a cup of coffee, go and get yourself something to drink, because you're going to sit down and we're going to really have an open discussion. This is about dialogue. It really, really is. I've just come off of another show. I was on Luton Urban Radio earlier on, about half an hour ago, talking about the same thing, breaking it down. What are the things that we should know about this, and make sure that we realize this, so that we can safeguard our children, so that we can safeguard ourselves as parents as well. We need to know what's going on in the schools and how the school systems are running. Okay, so we are going to go on, and some guests are going to come in, some guests are going to come out, but we're going to keep this going. And I'm going to be showing you some clips that have been on. So these are not my clips. These are clips that you may or may not have seen, just to give some context to what we are talking about today. Okay, so just making sure that you guys can see me, can hear me. Everything is working. Everything is working lovely, hunky-dory. So we're going to carry on with the show. So before I bring in any of my guests, I am going to I'm going to show you a clip of Councillor Diane Abbott bringing this issue into the Houses of Parliament. So I'm going to do this now. Hold on a minute. I have to make sure that I've done this right. Let me just get this. There we go. Here we go.
strip searching black schoolgirls helped to bridge the divide between the police and communities? And is she aware that this is not an isolated incident? The Metropolitan Police's own figures show that in 2020 to 2021, 25 young people under 18 were strip searched. Most of those were black or ethnic minorities, 60% were black, the rest were some kind of minority ethnic, and only 2 of those 25 children that were strip searched was actually white. Is the Minister aware of how degrading this strip search was? It wasn't that she was just stripped naked. They made her part the cheeks of her bottom and cough. She was on her period. I could give more detail, but I don't want to distress people in this house. It was utterly degrading. She is still traumatised. I have to stress, they found no drugs. She's never been accused of taking drugs. How can the Minister sit there and tell this house that that had nothing to do with that young girl's race, that the figures I've quoted are not striking? And will she assure this house and the wider community that the government will take notice of whatever comes out of the reports into this and make sure that the Metropolitan Police and school teachers will not collude in this treatment of young schoolgirls again?
Okay, so there you saw Diane Abbott in the House of Commons putting her case across to the Speaker of the House, and, you know, really making it clear, as you heard, this is not an isolated situation. So we are talking about child Q this evening, and now I'm going to bring in my guests. Now I'm going to go ladies first. We have Vicky. I'm going to bring Vicky in. Hi Vicky, how are you?
Hi, I'm fine, thank you.
Right, so Vicky's background is in safeguarding and working in the community. You've worked within the prison sector and with the police over many, many years. So I really want to thank you for being here this evening to voice your opinion, voice your concerns, and help us to come up with some kind of solution for this young 15-year-old girl. And I'm also going to bring in one of our other experts. I'm going to bring in Lincoln. Good evening, Lincoln.
Hi, how are you doing? You're right there.
I'm very, very well. Lincoln is a teacher lecturer, as well as being a mental health and suicide prevention advocate. So I want to thank you for being here as well, Lincoln, for taking the time out to talk to us on this subject. Now, you've heard what Diane Abbott had to say. I'm going to bring in Vicky first. I've got so many different clips to play, but we're going to have a conversation, and I'm going to bring in another clip, and so on and so forth, and we're going to just have an open dialogue. And I want to say, though, to those of you who are at home, if you have anything, if you want to contribute to the conversation, please put your comments on the comment thread. Do not be shy. We will read out your comments. We want to hear what you think. We want to hear how you're feeling. We want to know what you think can be done to change this. Yeah? Okay, cool. So, hold on. I'm just going to... Okay, so we have a further 2. We got another 2. So let me deal with these. So we've got more and more guests coming in. We have a full panel tonight. So I'm gonna speak with Vicky and Lincoln first, and then I'm going to bring in my other 2 guests who are here as well in the green room, and we're going to get some dialogue going this evening. So first of all, good evening, Vicky, again. Good evening. Right, so Vicky, when you heard about this, what were your first thoughts?
The indignity of it all, yet again, and my first question was safeguarding. Where was the safeguarding of this child? She was in school.
Mm-hmm.
if anything happens in school, and compared to some of the things that happens in schools today, this was minor because they suspected that she may have had drugs on her. All professionals who work with children, elderly people, the first thing that comes to your mind when you're dealing with especially children is safeguarding. So my question is, yes, the police, the school called the police, but why wasn't there a barrier between the police and the child? i.e., why wasn't there a teacher, one, a teacher present, and two, a teacher using his or her safeguarding training to say, just a minute, she's a minor, we need to call the parents, mother or father. Why did they allow the police to search her in that way? And going back to the figures Diane gave, how many of those young people had either an appropriate adult or a family member with them when they were strip searched? Because when I first heard about Child Q, first thing that came to mind was he's not the only one.
No. We know from what Diane Abbott said that this is not an isolated incident. 25 youths, and out of the 25 of youths that have had this happen to them, only 2 were white. So in the safeguarding, in the report, which we will hear about a little later, I'm sure that Lincoln will enlighten us as to what the report says. In terms of that, why is it that, we're hearing now that there's been 25 young people and 23 of them are from ethnic backgrounds, ethnic minorities. The majority of them are black. And where were the parents? So this is something that has been happening and has gone under the radar, and has had this young girl not have had this experience, we probably would still be none the wiser. Now, I'm not saying that, it should have happened. It should never have happened. Never.
And the thing is, how many of those young people who were strip searched went home and told their parents?
Right.
Were their parents aware of it?
We don't know, do we?
How many were girls? How many were boys? What was the scenario for them to have to be strip searched? Because we know it's well documented that our young black people, our young black children, it doesn't take much for them to be stopped and searched. No,
it doesn't. Yeah. And this is why it's really important that our children know that the ins and outs. And we will be doing another show. I'm going to see if I can get, I know somebody that works with the police on stop and search laws, and is part of the scrutiny team for the police, actually, to make sure that things like this don't happen. So I'm going to be speaking to him and seeing if I can get, he wasn't available today, but I will love to have him on the show and have this conversation out with him to find out what provisions we can put in place for our young people. Because clearly, we need to, as the parents and as the community, we now need to step up and start to safeguard our children as well. We cannot just, rely on the safeguarding officer, because my first thought, like yours, Vicky, was, well, where is the safeguarding officer? Because I've worked in schools, so I know how this thing runs. So where is, certain children, you can't even talk to them without the safeguarding officer there. Hello. So what was going on here? What was the situation? I'm going to bring in Lincoln here. I'm calling you something else, but I'm calling you Lincoln because that is your name. Okay. So Lincoln.
Yeah. Wow. I'm smiling, but when I heard this, I thought that can't be right, because I work in education. I thought that's not, it can't be true, because you hear things, don't you, and then you see it on the news and you start to think, okay, well, this is something that actually happened. So I suppose my question, well, I me, sometimes I think, when I'm thinking, I'm going all over the place. So I'm going to try and kind of stay on point. But welcome to post-racial Britain, according to Dr. Tony Sewell. There's no institutional racism, and what have you. His report is concerned. Well, this clearly shows that he was talking absolute. We knew he was talking rubbish, and this kind of just clears it up for us. You asked the question, and that was an interesting question. Where were the safeguarding teachers? My understanding is that those teachers were standing outside of the room that the search was happening in. Why were the teachers allowing this to happen? And I think it was about collusion, the adultification of our children. So they treat our children like they're adults. So they didn't think to themselves, we need to have, the mother, we need to have an appropriate adult around. We can take a 15-year-old girl, and we can, and I'm going to be, on the one hand, I want to be careful, but on the other hand, I want to call it as it is. For me, that was sexual abuse.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the other thing is, one of the questions that I would ask is, were those body cameras on?
Thank you. Yeah.
Now, if the body camera, that they're probably going to say, oh, there's no body camera footage, but we have not long had a situation where 2 black women were murdered.
That's right.
And the police were taking photographs of it. Now, I further understand that the officers that were involved are still on active duty. They haven't been suspended. They're still out there, ripping and running, and most probably abusing their power as they did then. So what's going on with those officers? Why are they not suspended? Pending a further investigation. There are also other things that I've looked at in this report, and I'm telling you now, I can smell a big fish there. I can smell a big rat. There's a rat there. I can smell it, because there's points there talking about about collusion between the police and the teachers, deferring to what the police are saying, when in actual fact, if the police turn up, I mean, first of all, unless there's something very dangerous going on where there are weapons involved, you don't phone the police, because you don't criminalize young people. That's the first thing. The second thing is, why do you need to do a full body search and an intimate cavity search on a child, when there are no weapons involved? I mean, you can't hide a gun in cavities. So what are you looking for? Why is there such an urgency for you to be able to do this? The report talks about her being involved in kind of them thinking, or one of her friends being involved in having drugs on them. But that doesn't mean because I've got a friend and they've got drugs on them that I'm involved in that. Why is it that you think that that's all right for you to kind of hitch that wagon to me? And it sounds like the teachers were just really annoyed, and instead of looking at this from a safeguarding point of view, because what they should have been looking at is, if there are young people and there are drugs involved, this may be a county lines issue. This may be that the young person is involved in drugs and may be being used as a courier. They just wanted to criminalize the young person. They weren't looking at safeguarding, as Vicky said. The first thing that you should be looking at is safeguarding this young person. So why weren't they doing that? So I've got lots to say, but I don't want to kind of just take the floor. So, let's continue with the conversation. I'm upset about it.
Thank you for that, Lincoln. Really, really thank you for those points that you've raised.
Can
Right,
I just say something?
yeah.
Back up what Lincoln said. What's been really concerning me is, were they male officers?
That's another thing.
And where were their body cams on while they were doing this search? And where is, if they were, where is the video? How far has it gone? Look at the photos that were taken of the two sisters.
Yeah.
This is what really, really distresses me.
Yeah. I can answer that. When the police were initially called, there were two officers that attended, one male, one female, and for some reason, whether the police had made up in their minds that they wanted to do an intimate search on this young person, they called for backup, and then another two police officers turned up, and that was again, it was a man and a woman. So for me, I'm thinking to myself, okay, well, when they first turned up and had a discussion with the teachers, they'd made up their mind that they were search on this young person, and they wanted to have two female police officers to do this search on the young person, and that's why a second pair turned up, and one of them was male and one was female. So they'd already made up their minds what they were going to do, and at that point, the teachers should have said, that's not going to work for me, because she's 15 years old. How are you going to go and do something like that? I'm not going to be the appropriate adult. We haven't informed their parents or a mother or what have you, or a guardian. So how are you thinking that that's gonna run? It's not going to run. But I'll tell you something else. We're learning a lot from our Muslim brothers and sisters, because I'll tell you something, if this was a Muslim girl, they would have looked at her and gone, nah, that's not going to work. Work.
That's very true. Now is the time for us to rise up. I'm going to bring some others in to the stream. Right, so we've got three. This is like a male orientated kind of panel tonight. The men are standing up, and I am very, very grateful. And I just love my brothers for taking part tonight. Have to say that, because ordinarily it's always women chatting. But tonight, I mean, it's myself and Vicky representing the women, but tonight the men are here to talk. So I'm going to bring in Theo. Hi, Theo. You're on mute.
Good evening. Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening. And I'm going to bring in... Now, Theo is another radio presenter, but also works with young people, has worked with young people for many, many years. So he has a great level of expertise with working with young people. So Theo is here to bring about his perspective. I'm going to bring in Kels. Hi, Kels.
Hey, long time. How are you guys?
It's been a while. Nice to have you here.
Thank
you.
you.
You work with young people as well. You are a driving instructor. You do lots and lots of different things. Have two daughters yourself. So thank you for being here and being part of this panel. And I'm going to bring in Tony. Hello, Tony. How you doing?
I'm good, thank you.
Good. We know that Tony works in schools as well, and so has, a world of knowledge around young people. So, guys, you could hear the conversation going from before. We were talking about child Q. So I'm just going to give you three an opportunity to just say what you have to say really quickly in regards to this, so that we can move the conversation on, because I have another clip to play. So I'm going to bring in I'll bring in Kels, and then actually let me bring in Theo, Kels, and Tony, the same way that you came in. So my darling Theo.
Yes, madam. It's shocking, but not shocking, because it's something that's done throughout. Okay, we are fortunate it happened in a school, because this kind of stuff happens, as Diane Abbott said, 25 people have been stopped. So it's fortunate it happened in a school, so there was a record of it. Because if she were on the street, we would never heard about this. The thing that gets me the most is the fact that she was in an exam. They've taken her out of her GCSEs to strip search her. They could have waited until after her exams to do it. And then when they finished doing that, just go back to your exams like nothing ever happened. So the teachers searched her and found nothing. So why did then they have to proceed and call the police? What was the urgency in calling the police? You've searched her bag, you've searched her clothes, you've searched her. She has nothing on her. And then you decided, oh, we need to escalate this to the police. And then in the safeguarded police officer, the safer schools officer, on his recommendation, he says, call the police. Based upon what? Why are you calling the police? There's nothing to call the police for. She smells of cannabis. If I get 20, 15-year-olds now, just randomly, trust me, at least 3 or 4 of them are going to smell of cannabis. If you work in a school, in a London school, 15-year-olds smell of cannabis. Even if they smoke it or don't smoke it, somebody around them is going to be smoking it. So to take a young lady out of her exam to search her for that, and then the police excessively, did they think she was a drugs mule? Why she needed to be strip searched? Because that's what you do to someone that's a drugs mule or going into prison. She's a teenager in school. Or did they think she's going to be, carrying it? Remember, cannabis is pretty much legal anyway. So what were they going to do? They found a bag of, 10 ounce, whatever it's called. They're going to find out and they're going to arrest her for it. Most of it done is reprimanded her, give her a slap on the wrist and said, don't do it again. So the excessiveness of what they did didn't make any sense. And whatever they get from it, they deserve it.
Yeah.
Thank you for that, Theo. Before Kels comes in, we've got a comment from Dr. Phil Knowles. Says, I don't know the facts, but these are the questions I have. It was a return to the plantation era. Due to their anger, the teachers were unable to handle the main issue. Fear of the gang members may have been the reason. This reminds me of the old saying, let's pick on her. Not in a gang and a good student. They bullied a good student as a result of their own hype. This is just the beginning of my questions. That's what Dr. Philip Knowles says. Kels, I'm coming over to you.
Yeah, my 2 daughters came to mind. So I've got a 17-year-old and an 18-year-old. So straight away, I just hit the roof, as you could imagine, because my daughters know that if they was to come to me with this, I'd become like the Dark Knight. Basically, I'd get a sniper and get on some roof or something and just snipe them out. It's just, I was totally horrified. It was horrified from what I actually saw. I'm not going to repeat what's been said because we're all saying the same thing. It's my thing. I've got to really commend the mum and the auntie. I did read the whole report, and I think the channels that they took to actually do this was great because, I've heard that they try to put it out there. So I heard. I can't really say such, but it made me wonder how come they didn't let some of the networks know what was happening here. There's some people that they could have told. It could have been a march earlier. We may not have even been heard, but the fact that they did it this way and it actually got out there for the MPs to hear, for the broadcasters to hear. LBC Radio, I was listening to most of the broadcasters and they were shocked with what they heard. So we're all in agreement that this was absolutely disgusting. So everything so far has been peaceful. The protests on the Friday, the Sunday at Town Hall, which I saw Tony for the first time there. I just saw an amazing picture of us too that you saw in the feed. So I have to commend the family and also Child Queen. We've said to that she's the queen in this, the Q queen, that they were patient with this, that the whole of Britain, took a step back in addressing this. for whatever. I know some people might say that this might be distraction, something else might be happening behind the scenes, whatever. People can think or say what they want to say. She actually did go through this, and we're all upset about it. And it's not something that's going to be swept underneath the carpet. That can't happen. That's what I'm going to say.
Thank you, Kels. Thank you, Kels. Tony.
Where do you begin? Where do you begin? I'm gonna begin with the system isn't failing because the system is doing what it was designed to do. Yeah, do it again. The system isn't failing because the system is doing what it was designed to do.
Let us know what you think it was designed to do, Tony, because some people may not understand what that means.
Yeah. So, the suppression of black people in this country, you know, the adultification of our children, you know, the sexualization of our children, the racism that exists in institutions like police, like education, like law, like politics, you know, all these facets of society have all been united in doing everything in their powers to ensure that black people stay at the bottom of the run. And it's designed so. And unfortunately, I work in education. We are so far from making the changes necessary to ensure that our children have the best possible opportunity to become the kings and queens that they should be. You know, it's just so difficult in education. It's just so difficult. I had a conversation on Saturday on a different podcast about racism and racism in education, sorry. And, you know, I expressed about plans are afoot for things to get worse in education. Things are not getting better, things are getting worse. We have in August of 2022, the first secure school. Yeah, formerly called secure training centers. They're now going to be called secure schools. It's a government mandate. You can go on gov.uk and you can search secure schools and you'll see all the white paper footage about the introduction in August 2022 of secure schools. And there's only one people that are going to be the highest number of people in those secure schools. It's a prison with education. So we've gone from taking our excluded children and moving them into pupil referral units. The next step is now we're going to be putting them in a prison, calling it a secure school, putting bars around and pushing some form of education to them. That's no good for black children. That won't be no good for black children.
I don't think it'd be any good for any child, to be fair.
No.
I don't think it would be good for any child.
We know that these things are designed with specific people in mind, because we know how we are represented in the legal system, incarceration rates, arrest rates, etc. The situation with Child Q is not unique because, as I think Theo said, we've come to realize that 25 other children have been strip searched under the age of 18 in the past 12 months. And most of them have been black. Only 2 have been white.
Yeah.
That's what they said.
Okay.
Yeah,
and don't forget, in December 2020, we had a protest by the children of Pimlico High. for racist behavior by their school with the hair of the black children, the hijabs for the Muslim children, which were being banned. All these things on top of one another, arrest rates, stop and search, just all mount up, and you can see clearly as day that the system is doing a great job of mapping our children into a prison pipeline.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you for that. That kind of, it just brings the gloom and the doom and the, how do we, my thing is this show's about the solution, and we need to work away now. I mean, people may say, oh, this is bigger than the individual, but actually this is about our community. This is about our children. And this is about us safeguarding our children as the parents, as the community leaders. How do we do that? How do we work around this? And how do we give our children confidence to go to these organizations on a daily basis and learn, if this is what they are facing every day? Anyone could go. Richard, come in.
I'd like to jump in here, and I'd like to say that I think if we all know what we're doing, and even though we're working on an individual basis, we're actually chipping at it's the little foxes that gnaw down the vine, isn't it? It's the little things that we do on a daily basis that changes perceptions. And I'll give you an example. We always have this kind of racist trope about black boys, and I've heard it, before, but I attack it every time I see it, and it's usually, oh, he's just lazy when they're talking about our black boys. I remember sitting in a staff meeting, and we were talking about a young man that I had him in my class, and this other teacher had him in her class, and she made that comment, and she said, oh, I think he's just lazy. And I challenged her straight away. Basically what I said to her was, I can put him up against anybody in the classes that you teach, the best that you can put in there, and he can debate with them and beat them. I'm telling you that now, because I allow him to debate in my class and talk in my class. And when I'm asking him questions, he's answering questions. He knows the information. And I basically turned it back around to her and said, something, it's probably about the way that you're teaching. He's bored stiff in your class. In my class, I've figured out what makes him tick, and I tap into what makes him tick. And if we continue to challenge these nonsense when they come up with it, we will make a change. I remember when my son was going from junior school into secondary school, and they basically said that his predicted grades were going to be C's and D's. And he came home and he said, Dad, why are they saying that? And I said, something, let me tell you, what we need to do is we need to ignore what they're saying, because you're a black boy. They will always, and let's be clear with our black children about what's going on. Yeah. This is what they're going to say about you all the time. But all we need to do is make sure that they know what they're talking is and prove them wrong. So he goes all through his schooling, comes out at the end, and he comes out with, my son got A's and B's. The majority of his exam results were A's. He got A star, he got 5 A's, 1 A star, and 3 B's. And I said, and when he came, he was actually annoyed because one of the B's was maths. And he said, I thought he should have given me an A for that, Dad, because he told me that they were looking at an A for you, to give you an A when he did his mocks. Yeah. And I said to him, you know what? Don't worry.
Ooh, you've turned. I don't know what's happened to Richard, but you've turned. You've turned out, and you've got no volume. Can't hear you.
No.
You go out and come back in. All right, lovely. So we've had a couple of comments from Sue Walsh. She says, this is absolutely disgusting, that poor girl. I hope they are charged with indecent assault. They should be charged with rape. It's terrible. Grace Campbell says, children need to know what their rights are when faced with situations like this.
Can I address that point?
Yes.
One of the problems with rights when you're in amongst police and education is quite often they have a great way to remove your rights. They're trained. They know how to do it. You know, they use certain words. They'll put certain situations in place, and they'll make it almost impossible for you to exercise your human rights. Yeah, I mean, I've been pulled over by police just because I'm a black person. And I'm going to tell you now, just because I was black, a car pulled me over, 2 police. And within 3 minutes of pulling me over, 2 police turned into 2 cars, 4 police. And they haven't even talked to me. And you ask yourself the question, what are they doing that triggered 2 police to turn into 4 police with 2 cars? And then they start talking, and you're like, okay, here we go. Relax. Answer questions that are necessary. Don't answer questions that are unnecessary. Take badge numbers, ask for station details, all that kind of stuff comes into your head. But these guys are clever. They know what they're doing. Yeah, someone mentioned about body cam footage. These guys don't use their body cams when they know that they're in the wrong. You know, it's their training. They know what they're doing. You know, I work. You know, if anyone on here knows Sace Holmes Lewis, he trains police. Yeah. Yet he gets consistently pulled over because he's a black man in a nice car, and he's the treatment that we've seen of footage of him interacting with police. It just makes you think, well, it means nothing, because they will immediately know how to take away your rights. And I've seen it in school. Children's rights, children's pretty much know their rights. Because now, if you touch a child, they're going to call for, oh, this teacher touched me. And the next thing you know, that teacher is up before the board for physical abuse. And they can do that. Kids are very clever. You know, I've worked in pupil referral units, and the kids are very savvy as to legal duties and what they can and what they can't get away with. And so you've got to be super savvy working with these kids, because they can use all kinds of malicious wording to get you as a teacher in trouble. You know, I've seen good people, but it also works the other way around. You know, giving kids injections in schools. Yeah.
Okay. Let's stick to the child queue. I know that there are issues within schools. As one who's worked in schools myself, let's stick on topic for about child queue, because this what's going on here is very, very important. And I'm not saying that what you're saying isn't, but I just feel like we need to stay on track. My thoughts on this, you know, when I first heard this, one of the things that I thought, okay, so you've got a young girl who they say smells of weed. Now we know weed is weed. My thing is, how did they do a body search and not take her to hospital? Because even when you're in the airport, there's certain things they have to do first if they feel that you're immune and you're holding drugs within your body. That one, they wouldn't know what drugs that she had, So they could have caused that if she had it, let's say if she had it, that could have burst. That could have killed her. There are so many what ifs around this. But my first thing was, well, she's on her period. She's a 15-year-old girl. Who's to say that, that's just what she smells like? Because as a woman, and as a woman who has been a 15-year-old girl, I know that if you don't know how to manage your bodily hygiene at that age, and there's many young women who don't, right? Your hormones are changing, they're all over the place. You're on your period, you're sweating, you have a body odor. Who's to say? Who was the person who brought that to them in the first place of what her body smelled like? I'm just saying, it's a possibility. We weren't there. We don't know what it smells like. I know what skunk smells like, and I know what marijuana smells like, because weed has different smells. Let's be honest, right? So who was the person who made that call? That person needs their heads to roll. For me, there needs to be an action after this. Oh, let's bring you back in. There needs to be an action. Right? So that's my thought. As a woman, as a mother, I'm thinking to myself, I'm sending my child to school, and then you're telling me my child's come home to tell me that her body has been violated at one of the most personal times in her life. I'm going to bring in Vicky on this, because as a female, because guys, you might understand it but not know it, as being dads and stuff like that. But I'm going to bring in Vicky. Vicky, what are your thoughts on? Because I want to just go right back to the beginning for the thought of what would have possessed these people to make this assumption. Do you see where I'm going in terms of body odor and how she presented and all of these things?
Again, it just comes back to the individual who first brought up the fact that he or she smelt weed on this child. It could be, we know what we use different products in our hair. She could have been on a bus with some youngsters who had been smoking, and the smell got into her hair. I have walked past youngsters on the street who's been smoking, and I've walked a few yards away and I could still smell the weed or whatever they're smoking. In the first instance, she should have been taken aside and spoken to, and her word being taken for what it was. The fact that Lincoln said earlier she was actually, was it Lincoln who said she was actually in an exam? That makes it even worse. Because it's not like somebody had seen her with a gun or a knife going into her exam. So this individual who initiated all this, should they be teaching in a school?
No.
Okay, they went as far as strip searching her. When they found out that she was on her period, where was the school nurse? Again, where was the safeguarding person? Because every school has a safeguarding person.
Yeah. They might not have a school nurse, but they definitely will have a safeguarding officer in that school. That much we know.
Several, not just one.
Not just one.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is, there is there's stop and search. I was reading it the other day, and it said, in terms of how stop and search works now, to search somebody, you have to have more evidence than the smell of weed. It's
yeah.
something that's been brought in to play. So this whole scenario, again, should never have happened, because, you know, it has been said, and it is part of the procedure, it's part of what happens now. The police have to have more than just a suspicion of weed or drugs. There has to be more evidence to stop someone, to search them. And this is a young girl at school, and her teacher thought.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the fact that she's 15 years of age. I mean, just without repeating it so much, the parents should have just been called in.
Absolutely.
If not a doctor, it should be under no right of a police officer or even a teacher to be getting that intimate. You know, somebody who's professional in the area. I wouldn't want no policeman putting their hands all over me. Like, where's that been prior to that? It doesn't make any sense anyway, you know, for something like that to this magnitude. But once again, she's 15 years old. You give me a call.
Yeah, and let's be clear that they put their hands inside her body. Let's be clear about this. It wasn't just that they just patted her down. They put their hands inside her backside, made her cough, and put it inside of her vagina to see what was there.
Yeah,
That should have been done by if that was to be done, that should have been done by a medical practitioner and not the police.
that's right. Because I have, once again, my children would have been, what, 14, 15 then, or something like that. And I've not done anything physical with my kids since when they were babies. I'm saying I don't get that intimate and close with them. And if that were the case, it would be the mum or would be a doctor or something like that. You know what I'm saying? Someone that's more closer, if not professional. So how they think that they can do something like that, to me, it actually goes against United Nations violations. I actually read that up as well. Yeah, in terms of human rights. Right now, people's heads should be rolling.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We've got some comments, guys, so I'm going to read out some of the comments. Basma says, first and foremost, anything that is happening with any child, their parent should always be called by the educational institution, especially when they are minors. Anything regarding someone's child should always be informed so that they know what is going on with their child, why and what they can do. It says here, as a parent, to help their child and help resolve the situation if it needs be. Absolutely. The parents should have been, you know, it is said that the two officers came and then another two officers came. So by the time the other two officers came, wasn't there ample time to call the parents or call somebody? Why wouldn't the parents, you know, where were the parents? Why weren't they called? Arlene says, I walk around daily and smell weed. When I look around, there is no one smoking, so it does travel. Basma says, I spoke about the smell to my hubby. I've smelt people with body odor that smell similar to weed. When I was in school, due to hormonal changes, I definitely agree with Yvonne. Listen, when you work with young people, sometimes they're a bit whiffy to high heaven. Do you know what I mean? And you know, it's all different kinds of smells. You don't know what the smell is. So Dr. Philip Knoll says, this is bigger than the perpetrator realised. Everyone with a platform must address this and talk about this so the spotlight stays. Secondly, pardon the pun, but this is a Wakanda moment. Where do we want to build our strong city? Sanctions. This needs to be addressed. Take away the teachers' assets and the police's assets, because until this occurs, it will continue to occur. If Kurt Zuma is paying 25,000 for a cat, our sister is worth more than that, and that's a thing. Thea, I'm going to let you come in because I can see your hand up. Come in and say what you want to say.
No, it's just going back to the point where you were saying about the young girl being basically violated. And also, as we know what they do at crime scenes when they're taking pictures, because that's not obviously the first time they've done it, it's obviously something that they do. It brings to mind that's pedophilia. That's
Yeah.
the sexual, because there was no need for them to do what they did. There's no need for that. You know, they don't do that in prisons unless, you know, they've got an idea that this person is a regular, you know, drugs courier. So you're dealing with a 15-year-old who was apparently an A student
Hmm.
sitting in a GCSE exam, and then you've gone to that extreme. I still can't get my head around what they were thinking. And the school for phoning the police for a minor incident, because it's a minor incident, really. Someone smell of cannabis, it's minor. You're dealing with teenagers, as everybody says, they will smell of it. To be escalating to this scale, I still can't get my head around why they thought they had to strip search her. You know, to what extent did that make them justify what they were doing? What were they looking to hope to find? They're gonna hope to find like half a key on her, or, you know, I don't know, what did they expect to find in a 15-year-old girl sitting in an exam? That's what, you know, what were they expecting to find?
It makes no sense. Lincoln, come in.
I think they were just, to be honest with you, I think they were just angry. I think the teachers involved just had it in for her. Now, what we have to do, I because I want to be solution focused, is we have to use their policies, their procedures, their laws against them. And one of the things that was interesting, I mean, some of you have got this this report, and when we look at police and criminal evidence, yeah, it says, so what happened was they said that they smelt cannabis before the police arrived. They searched her coat, they searched her blazer, her scarf, made her take her shoes off, and didn't find anything. So this is what the Police and Criminal Evidence Act says. It says, searches involving exposure of intimate parts of the body must not be conducted as a routine extension of a less thorough search, simply because nothing is found in the course of the initial search. Searches involving exposure of intimate parts of the body may be carried out only at a nearby police station or nearby location which is out of the public view, but not a police vehicle. Yeah. And it also talks about having consultation with a superior is always required prior to such a search. Police officer must be of the same sex as the person being searched, and the process must be conducted in accordance with paragraph 11 of the PACE Act. So the first thing is that did they consult a senior officer?
Mm-hmm.
Because if they consulted a senior officer, then that senior officer's head should roll, because nobody's life was in imminent danger. There were no explosives involved. It was a little bit of weed. Yeah. So if they were doing an intimate body search, they weren't looking for pounds of weed. So what is it that you're looking for? So for me, if it was a senior officer that they called and that officer said, yes, you can go ahead and search her, that person's head should roll. If they didn't, then they didn't abide by the PACE. Yeah. So their heads should roll. And as I said before, why are those officers out doing, mixing with our young people, and mixing with us? Why are they policing our community? Yeah. So I think that according to this, they didn't find what they were looking for. They got angry. The teachers got angry and said, right, I'm phoning the police, because they got some little mixed up feelings about the girl. Yeah. And when the police arrived, they colluded with the police and decided, you know what? Yeah, go on, do a search on her. Okay. And then everybody turned their back and abandoned the young girl and let the police get on with what they're doing. I agree with Theo, and I said it before Theo came on. This was sexual abuse, and I believe that there's film of this out there somewhere, and I would not be surprised passing it around between themselves and having a good laugh at it. My only concern right now, and I did voice this to you, Yvonne, earlier, is that all of this is coming out, and the girl is now, according to what people are saying, or according to this, She has withdrawn from herself. She was a straight A student. She was a prefect at one point. How is this affecting her? Yeah. She's withdrawn. This family can't get through to her. And because it's now out in the open, yeah, maybe she made, God forbid, I'm praying that it doesn't happen, but maybe she might go on to decide she's going to take her own life. And I tell you something, if that happens, you know, this is going to, I mean, it's blowing up already, but then you're going to see a whole raft of people going to go. We have just seen Cressida Dick, yeah, resign from her position because of the way that they've treated women. So what? Our black women don't matter.
Mm-hmm.
It's only when it's people like Sarah Everard, God rest her soul, yeah, that people's heads can roll and the head of the Met can go. But when it comes to our kids now, the same police officers still on the road. It's unacceptable.
With you 100%, especially with your latter comments in terms of you know, the harshness of women and how we've been treated, especially being a black woman. We're still not treated the same. You know, there's rights for women and then there's rights for black women, and it's exactly the same way of the tone of my voice. There are things for women and there are things for black women. And
Absolutely.
we are always the bottom of the barrel. And I'm sick of it. I'm absolutely sick of this right about now. Let's just read a comment out. Pauline Young says, I would like to see what the school's written procedure is in such a situation. Surely it's not how the so-called authorities conduct themselves. I feel sick. I felt sick when this story broke. Can you imagine how many similar instances like this have passed through the net? Yes, well, we know for this year alone, there have been 25 other cases, and only 2 of those were with white children. Our children are being targeted in schools. They're being targeted by the police. How do we protect our children? That is the question. How do we do that? How do we move this forward?
From inside, we have to join these organizations, and you know, sometimes we say, oh, don't join the police, don't do this, don't do that. We have to, because otherwise, you know, I mean, I can speak for myself. If I was a police officer and I walked in there and they were talking about doing an intimate search on a 15-year-old child, I'd have said, you got no chance.
Yeah.
I'm not going with that. What are you talking about? And I'll be thinking about my nieces and my sisters and all that. I'll be saying, no, you can't do that. That's the only way we can change it. But we've got to have a certain mindset. You know, the other issue for me is the local authority, because there's some questions around. I'd like to be asking the local authority, because the local safeguarding board were basically trying, as far as I can say, when I'm reading this thing, it looks like they were trying to sweep it under the carpet. They were saying, well, actually, you know, there's no criteria for this. What?
Yeah. Read that out for us, Lincoln, please.
So, a bit of background. The child goes home to the mother and tells the mother, you know, this happened to me. The mother takes the child to the GP. The GP sees and talks to the young girl and says, you know what, she needs psychological help here. She needs support. Yeah, so he makes a referral to the local authority. Now, it says, so I'm quoting directly from their safeguarding report. It says, so let's get this straight. I want to get this straight. Given these circumstances, a rapid review. So the family GP who made the referral for psychological support, this led to contact with Hackney Children and Family Services. Given these circumstances, a rapid review was initiated by the City of Hackney Safeguarding Children's Partnership. The rapid review report was submitted to the Child Safeguarding Practice Review Panel. So the rapid review looked at it, and they submitted it to the Child Safeguarding Practice Review, or the panel, in early 2021. As part of its response, the panel made the following suggestion. We noted your decision to carry out a local child safeguarding practice review, but would encourage you to think carefully about whether one is necessary. Let me read that again. We noted your decision to carry out a local child safeguarding practice review, but would encourage you to think carefully about whether one is necessary, as we felt that this case was not notifiable, and did not meet the criteria. So what is that saying? That's saying this doesn't matter. This happens all the time. Police did what they're doing. We're not prepared to do what we're supposed to be doing about it. Let's sweep it under the carpet and move on. It's just a little black girl. Who cares?
Thank you for that, Lincoln. Does anyone want to come in with any thoughts from hearing that?
Yeah, just kind of coming away from what Lincoln was saying in terms of resolutions. I think it's just the history of the police, be it first slave patrols, and then in the mid 1800s it was for crowd control. So the actual system itself was actually quite new. It's not a very old system. I think in America they were doing things like defunding the police. That they felt that they just was even necessary or needed. I even wonder sometimes they even call it police, as though people naturally just need to be controlled or just policed rather than support. You know, why are they coming up with negative words? I think just the whole ethos, the whole system. I think that's what Tony was pretty much was also putting across. Is just the whole narrative of the system built on just control in itself just needs to kind of be looked into to see why straight away they're just making people wrong, making our children wrong, for instance. So I think I think the whole in terms of the police itself, that needs to be that they need to sit down and really think about what is it to be a police or support to people in 2022 onwards. And with regards to the school, the children don't feel safe, as we can see. If you guys have seen the video that's been circling around, the children naturally just don't feel safe now. I mean, my own daughter, she's actually making up a report for the school and speaking to the head right now and asking them what they can do to make the children feel safe at school. So they are now taking control into their own hands now. They are now stipulating what they want to see in their own schools. And they're very much aware, Black, white, Indian, Chinese, they can see the demographic of people that are being stopped, and they know that it is predominantly African, Caribbean, Black people. They know the kids are not stupid, you know? So I think the narrative, the system, things need to change, because kids are just not going to like the police. They're not going to, I mean, when people say, you know, we should not have us lot being in the police system, I don't think they really care to. They just don't respect it. They don't like it.
Thanks for that, Kellyanne. I want to, you mentioned, I'm going to bring you in a minute, Tony. You mentioned about the children not feeling safe. So I'm going to play a clip. But I do want to come back to what Lincoln had highlighted from that report, because that is very significant and something that we need to hear and know, that this is like a governing body saying, actually, this is not important. Hello. Okay, so I'm just going to play this. I'm going to bring it into the stream. For those of you who are just joining us, we're talking about child Q, and we are looking for solutions so that this never happens again. I'm going to play this. I'm going to bring it to the stream. Hold on, let's just go on. See if I can take it, guys.
Whenever it's an issue with the global majority, they turn a blind eye. Really, they want to disregard that we're not just sitting here for no reason. They have neglected their duties, and we no longer feel safe. And they feel they need to hide in the corner instead of admitting what they have done wrong. And that's the fact that they've neglected a poor child who had to be traumatized this way. And instead of apologizing and addressing, you know what, we've done wrong, we're going to do better, they want to hide, cruel, and intimidate, and say, you know what, be quiet, go to lesson. No, we're not going to go to lesson because we're not safe. And she's come up here and take responsibility for what she's done.
that was a clip taken for the young people sharing their voice. The voice is a very powerful thing, and you know, I'm so proud of those young people for making a stand. I really, really am. So I'm going to bring in Tony because you had your hand up. Tony, come in. You're on mute, babe.
So basically addressing that video as a result of, I believe, the action of those children, and I do believe it contributed greatly to the event that happened next. That teacher has actually been sacked. Solutions. So from my position, our children need to be represented and protected in schools. Our children need to be protected and looked after on the streets of London and wherever they exist up and down the country. They need to be protected from any organization or institution that will do them wrong. So, you know, you look at black women in the health service. You know, why is it that black women are dying at rates unlike any other ethnic group? Clearly, representation matters. And I can honestly say I'm always the only black teacher in the school. Always. If I ever see another black teacher, it's the PE teacher. Yeah. When I look around the schools I've worked at, I've only once ever seen a black person in Senko once. And I've worked in a lot of schools. Representation matters. In the police force, black officers go in, they come out. I have a very good friend actually who is a police officer, black guy. There is such a thing as the Black Teachers Network, the Young Black Teachers Network. There is such a thing as the Black Police Association, the BPA. But unfortunately, my question is, where are these organizations when this happens? Because this is what you're an organization for. Black children, black people. So if something goes wrong and it affects black policemen, black people, black children, the Black Teachers Network should be at the forefront and the Black Police Association should be at the forefront. I believe currently our children are as distant from authority as I think they've ever been. And this is bearing in mind that when our parents came to the country in the Windrush era, they were also at a very far distance from the police, from the school systems. But I actually believe right now, I'm like, really? Okay, so when I grew up, I experienced racism at school. I'm 53. Yeah? So I know what it feels like. I experience racism weekly from the police. I know what it feels like. But now I'm thinking to myself, have things really got better? Or have things really got worse? And I can only conclude, and guys, I'll be happy to hear your opinion on this, that our children are probably more distant from those institutions than we were, and we thought we had bared the brunt of it all in the 60s and 50s.
Anyone want to come in and answer, Tony?
I just think it's a difference between overt and covert racism. But for me, racism, you just need to lick off its head. You have to challenge it wherever it is. Yeah. Now, here, you know, Kel, I hear you, you know, about the kids not wanting to join the police force. But for me, I've got a friend as well. He is a police sergeant in the Met. Yeah. And I'm saying to him, listen, go for it, because I know he's a conscientious guy. I know he's somebody that would, you know, come and he'll say, look, he comes and he gives talks to young people saying, listen, You see, when the police come to you and they want to search you and they want to do this, that, and the other, he's giving them advice. He's giving young people advice on how to deal with the police and what to ask for and what your rights are. Now, if he wasn't who he was, yeah, there would be an issue. Now, I'm saying to him, he's just taken his inspector's exams, yeah. So I'm encouraging him to go as far as he can, and that's the only way we can do it. If we stand outside, we're standing outside the walls, throwing stones at the walls. We have to get inside and set that on fire. Now, I can only repeat what I've said. When I'm seeing them people, especially our black boys, they're saying they're lazy, they're this, they're that, oh, that person, let's get rid of that person because they've done this, that, and the other. I'm saying no. And I'm saying, well, all right, then you never dealt with that white child the way that you did want to deal with this one. You want to get rid of this black child, but when, child A did such and such, you didn't have the same energy for them. Now, if I wasn't there to speak for them and other black teachers weren't there to speak for them, they'd be gone.
Yeah.
So I'm saying we have to be, regardless whether you like the institution or you don't like the institution, that might be how you feel about it. So if you don't like the institution, then fine. But I'm not discouraging no black children from getting into the police. I'm going to say hang on in there, because, these teachers associations, they're put there because when we go in as teachers and lecturers, we are under fire. Yeah. So they're racist against us. But we have to be there as a shield to our children. The only thing I can give to my children, I can give them, I can give them confidence to deal with their situations. Yeah. Now, at every teachers, teachers meetings or parents' evenings and what have you, they don't like to see me. None of the teachers like to see me. All going through the years, they never like to see me. Yeah, because I'm asking them some hard questions. So when they're looking at my child, yeah, they're thinking, you know what? His dad's coming. His dad's going to start asking me some questions and questioning me and have some sense when he's doing it. He's not going to fly off the handle, not going to get threatened to kill nobody. He's just saying, listen, why did you do that? Give me the reason why you did that. And I don't agree with you, and challenge people. That's the only way we can deal with this situation. Challenging them, yeah, and using rules and policies and procedures against them.
And then you become the uppity Negro.
I don't care whether I become the uppity Negro. I'm telling you that what I'm doing for mine, I'm saying that if more of us do the same, yeah, who cares about what the label is that they want to attach me? I'm there for my child. I'm there to give my child confidence. So when he's dealing with the teachers, he knows, you know what? My dad's not having that. I'm going to call my dad, and my dad's going to go down to the school and talk to them. So they can call me what they want.
It's true. Theo, come
in. Solutions. I'm hearing everybody, but I think this is deeper. It's a much deeper thing than just challenging them. This is deep, and it's rooted. It's rooted in mindset and of white people, It's just race, basically, black, white, everybody. It's a deep thing. Yeah. So we had the Black Lives Matters march. We've had all these marches, and I said to my wife, these marches are great. They stir up and they bring discussion, but then what?
Then what? That's right.
Then what? And I said the reason why I asked then what, because we as a race and we as a people, we have no focal point. We don't actually have somebody steering the ship. There's lots of little activist groups doing things, and we're not unified. So we've done something in Hackney, we've done something in South London, we've done something here, but we're not unified. So there's not one actual voice. So if the government sat down and said to us, okay, sit around the table, who sits around the table?
Yeah, that's another
sits around the table and discusses what we want. Because what do we want? Yeah. So it's good we challenge, we join institutions and try, but this is deep. Now, I was still having this discussion with my friend, and he's talking about mindset change. And I said, yes. I said, we as a society have changed now when it comes towards is it LGBTQ plus minus, whatever they're called, yeah? Mm-hmm. And how has that changed? They've gone into school, and sexualize 5-year-olds by discussing about acceptance.
Yeah.
So for us, in order to change something, we have to do exactly the same thing. We have to have a program that goes out nationwide and hits 5-year-olds, because that's going to be in 10-year-olds. They're going to be in 10 years' time, they're going to be the 15-year-olds. 20 years' time, they're going to be the policemen and women of the future. So nothing's going to change because we've challenged them. Like Lincoln said, okay, it's great. We go in and challenge that teacher. Once you've gone, Lincoln, what happens to the next black youth that comes up behind you? That same teacher's still going to be there, treating the next youth exactly the same. So we need to change the system from a younger age. But we need to have somebody or group that says we are standing up for our community, not fractions, because they're too fragmented.
Okay.
So that's what we need to find, somebody or something that says, right, this is what we as a black nation want. This is what we as a people need in order for us to go forward, because these things are going to happen. They've been happening from I was a youngster, from guys were youngsters. I came from Jamaica, same thing. Nothing's changed. All they did was just disguise it, and they've just gone a bit more. They're not so in your face like it was in the 80s when it was on TV and it's on the newspapers. You know, they could say black, they could say Gollywog, they could say so many things and it'd be okay. So now they just do it subliminally. You know, the young black kids are outcrying now because they never actually really experienced racism in their face. They can see it, they can feel it, but they never actually experienced it. Now they're experiencing it. When we were younger, we experienced it. They would say that's in our face. So we need to come together as a people, and someone needs to stand up and say, this is what we want. So when we go and have these marches, there is an actual reason for us to do it. There's a resolution, there's a plan, there's something, there's an aim, an objective in place. It's not just we're making a noise and then tomorrow everyone goes back to work. And, you know, one thing I was thinking about, we as black people, if somebody was, you know, leading or speaking up, go and strike for a day. Just everybody don't go to work. We just all take the day off, and then the society just take the day off. What would happen then? Just take the day off
and don't buy nothing.
We have Black Pound Day. We have that doesn't affect anything. Black Pound Day doesn't affect, but we just take the day off. Nobody goes into work on Tuesday. That's it. Done. No trains, no buses, no taxis, no shops, no cleaners, no whatever, you know, no teachers, caretakers, whatever we do. But we need to
it's a lovely idea. Theo,
I know it is. I know it is, Tony.
You can't mess with people's paper.
I understand that.
No, you
I learned that a long time. I learned that a long time ago.
But I know that. What I'm trying to say is we need to.
I'm gonna affect your paper.
You can. No, you know, I hear what you're saying, Tony. But I'm just like, you know what? There has to come a time when you become sick and tired of being sick and tired, and that means it's going to affect your paper for change. Because if we want change, then we have to change.
You have to sacrifice something.
There has to be a sacrifice. Totally, I agree with Theo, and I agree with Lincoln as well. Lincoln's way is chipping away, but Theo's way is going to the heart. And one of the things from time immemorial, from way back when we see these racist situations, when the George Floyd happened, blah, 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 all these things going. And I'm saying, okay, we've got all of these protests, but where is the leader? And I tell you why. When you go back in history, in order for change to work collectively on a big scale, there was always a leader. There was Martin Luther King. There was Malcolm X. These were the people who were moving the people, the ones that people were listening to. So where is our leader? We need a leader. We need somebody to stand up and be accounted. We need somebody, preferably a man, please, right, to stand up and because we will follow. We will follow. And you will have, if it's a man, you will have a whirl of women behind you. Whirl of them, as well as men. You will get the support. It's needed, it's necessary, and that is the only way things are going to start to shift. When we shift, then it will shift. And until we do that shift, it will stay the same.
Yeah.
We will live in this, our children will grow up, and nothing will change. Nothing. So it's up to us now to make the change. It's up to us. Who wants to come in? I've had my statement.
I'd like to respond to Theo. Theo,
okay, so after you, Lincoln, I think you'll come in.
He made some valid points, yeah. But what he also said was, what about the other child that comes after you? And I think the point that I was trying to make was that when it comes to our children, everybody needs to, because let's face it, some of our parents are not involved. Yeah. Some of our parents are not involved, and they won't come into school, and they won't call. And when the kids are, you're calling them and saying, you know what, your child didn't turn up today. They're like, oh, well, there's nothing I can do with him. We all have to get involved, because this is going to have to be uniform. So if I'm doing it, people always say the same thing. They say, oh, black men this and black men that. Well, most of my friends are married men raising their children, okay? If I do it, if Tony does it, if Theo does it, if Kels does it, if anybody messes with our children, we go into the school and say, watch you now, don't play with me picnic, right? Don't even think about doing this. Don't even think about saying certain things to my child, because I will come down here and I will back you up and I will challenge you. Well, here's the other issue. I do want to be solution focused, but you see, anybody that stands up, they need to make sure that they're squeaky clean, because what we have done as a black people, right, is that, you know, when we get somebody and we like, all right, then let's say somebody and they're a minister, they're like a bishop or a churchman. First thing you're going to hear is, oh, I'm just want people money, and just for people money. That's the first thing that you get. Then you get a political party, and then you get people saying, oh, I don't know about this political party, I don't know about this, I don't know about that. Yeah. Whoever stands up, like the only person that I thought about was, if you remember some years ago when there was a leadership for the Labour Party, and we had somebody called Chuka Amuna, yeah?
Oh, yes.
All right, Chuka Amuna was going for it. He was going to be the leader of the Labour Party. And you know what my man said? When the media started to go into the intimate parts of his family, my man said, you know what, boy, I can't hold them your pressure, you know. So people need to know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, in the meantime, before we get somebody, and the other thing is, all of those people that stood up, what happened to them? What happened to Martin Luther King? What happened to Malcolm X?
They took them out, and that's what you would have to be willing.
And that's the point. Absolutely. So I'm saying, whoever stands up, we do need somebody. But in the meantime, yeah. And I tell you what, Theo, I'll back you, man. I agree with you 100%. So I'll back you. If you want to be that man, we'll stand up beside you, you know, on your right-hand side, guard your right-hand side. Tony can guard the left, right? I'm there for you. But in the meantime, make sure that nobody don't take no set with your picnic. And if you're not in the house with the child, yeah, make sure you're still involved, because you can still be involved.
I mean, this has got so many ramifications in terms of the social construct of the black family and the black unit. You know, we have, unfortunately, a situation that is constantly being exacerbated in terms of the destruction of the black family. Because right now I'm at war with there's a certain group of women who just want to destroy the black man, and it's become toxic. You know, the black man is this, the black man not do this, the black man this.
Can I say this, Tony? Let me, sorry to interrupt you, but it works both ways.
I'm on
the same place as you.
Let me hear me out first. Hang on.
Yeah.
Wait
I'm
your
just
turn.
saying.
And let me finish my piece.
All right.
Yeah?
Go on.
You know, we had this conversation when Mr. C was on your show. Yeah? He broke it down. There's a certain demographic of women who constantly destroy the black man. Now, in my family, and you probably know, on my Facebook wall is a picture of about 100 people, black men and black women married, with loads of kids. And black men in my family look after their black wives. And we have children, plentiful, beautiful. That's not to say every black man in my family is a dream. Because yes, certain 1 and 2 is a whatless man. Yeah. Yes, Yvonne, I will agree with you. It does work the other way. Yeah. But the war started when you just started to intercept my conversation, because it's like, oh, don't start discussing
Because
the
the
toxic
reason why I
female
intercepted you,
without
Tony,
discussing the
because
toxic man. Hang on.
no, but hold on,
Wait,
no.
hang on.
Remember, it's my show. Remember that.
Yeah, I know.
The
But
reason why
this is
I
the thing.
interrupted you, Tony, is because one, this is not the narrative. This is not the show. This is
So
not
this
what
is
the show's
showing.
about. One and two, you said, you know, the when you're speaking in terms of the family, you have to make it so it's across the board, because, and you yourself have sent me messages from the said man, right? There are men out there who are misogynist and are running the black woman down the same way. So make it equal. When you're saying,
Yes.
you say it's just, oh, that black women do this, you make it appear like it's just us. But
But
we
you
are
see,
doing
what
it
you
to
didn't do
ourselves.
was allow me to explain that.
Yeah, but
As soon as
Tony,
I opened the little bit of the gate about roles,
yeah,
because you're the one who said you would like a man to lead the party, the black
yes, I would.
the black party. It don't need to be a man; it could be a woman. I'll just be as happy as Larry for a woman to lead a black national campaign. Because guess what? Ain't no organization running without its women. Yeah, I'm a member of the 100 Black Men of London, and most of our members are women.
But you are the teacher. You are one of the teachers.
Most of our members within the 100 Black Men of London are women.
But who leads it?
Clearly, women are the fabric of
course,
our society.
Who leads it? Who leads it? Who leads it?
Okay.
Who leads
so we're not
it?
going to get into that discussion.
Men.
We're not going there.
Look, at the end of the day, as a race, right? As a black woman, we need to see our black men in their place, in their position, leading. Yeah, this is what most of us, the majority of us, want. There are a small number of women who run down black men, just as there are a small number of black men who run down with black women. It works both ways. We have to come away from that, and we have to start working together to create because the family, what is happening is every time a black man has a go at a black woman, and every time a black woman has a go at a black man, it kills and destroys the family unit. And the family is the most important thing. It is the thread that we all need and run by. None of us would be here without the family. The family is who we are as black people. That's who we are. It's the village.
And the sooner we recognize that and action that, that's when we will prosper. So you've made my point for me. That's what I was gonna say, because we do need the black man and the black woman to work together to create a difference. I work in schools, and I know exactly what Lincoln said about certain parents, and I think Theo, or was it Theo that said, you know, certain black parents ain't coming to school for their parents, for their kids. Certain kids come to school, and school is the safe place, because when you got home, mom and dad are at war, taking drugs, doing this, up to no good, and school is the safe zone. I deal with that daily.
Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah,
I agree with that. I agree. Totally agree with that.
Denise, the black man and the black woman are required to get over their beef, to get over their ego, and get together and create stability for our people to go, right, we can stand as one. But we ain't going to get there until we stand as one. My battery's about to die, so I'm going to have to love and leave you guys.
Oh, that's a shame, Tony. Plug in the charger. All right.
Plug in your charger, man.
I'm going to have to move room, though.
Lincoln, there was a book that you referred to, I think, Lincoln. Antonio Christopher saying, Lincoln, the name of the book you read from, please? I think that's the report.
No, it's the
Or the case.
if you just type in local child safeguarding practice review and then put in child Q, it should come up March 2022. It's out there. You can read it. Read the whole report. It's eye opening.
Is it this that I've put up on there? No?
Sorry,
Is it what I've just put up on there?
I can't see anything. Oh,
there's a link that someone put up.
Yeah, 14th of March 2022. Yeah.
Right, that's the link for you. If you want to take a copy of that link, Antonio, it's right there. I'm going to read out some comments and then we'll come back in once Tony's sorted himself out. Right, gifted. Of course you are.
Now look at the name of this is a great book for those who want to know a little bit more about the education system. This book is called Gifted at Primary, Failing by Secondary. This is a wonderful book.
Who's it by, Tony?
The author is Neil Mayers.
Once you get sorted, if you put that in the thread, that'd be good. Yeah. Okay, so we've got a few comments. Fiona Williams says we need one national organisation, Black Parents Union, but we need great minds to lead it. Mag says that's why during slavery the aim was to break up the Black family. God's Girl says we really need a man to represent, lead, and he needs a committed team to stand with him as a people. We need to get rid of the one-man army mindset, crabs in a barrel mindset. Please, let's grow together. Amen. And Antonio says, thank you. Yes. Guys, we've got the last 15 minutes, really.
I wanted to say, going back to Child Q and the school, it makes me wonder what was going on in the school before this happened. Did they have a drug issue with youngsters? And therefore, because she met this Child Q may have been a passive young person, she was used as a scapegoat.
Yes, the answer is
because if I can just say, I was having the discussion with my eldest daughter, who's in her 40s. We were driving somewhere and I was saying to her, I'm so angry about this. And we were having a discussion. And I said, if that was any of my children, I'd be in prison in a straitjacket. And she said, no, you wouldn't, Mum. I said, why? She said, because they would never do that to me. I would not allow them to do that to me. She said, as a 15-year-old, they could never do that to me. And the reason she said that is as my children were growing up, I used age-appropriate language with them, had age-appropriate discussions with them. And one of the very first things I spoke to them about, especially when you go to school, you respect authority. You do as you're told, because that way, if anything goes wrong, I can come to school and defend you. And I also explained to them, as children, nobody is allowed to see your naked body except a doctor. And as a child, only when I am with you or your dad's with you. Nobody is allowed to do that. And that has been the mindset from they were old enough to understand. And as Yvonne asked, what's the solution? It starts from home, I think. It has to start from home. And we don't have to talk to our children in a scary way. Just the basic, don't allow anyone to abuse your body. If you have issues and it goes that far as it did with Child Q, I want my mother here. or I want my father here. And they couldn't disregard that request from that child. So I think they obviously abused their power.
Definitely.
Because having worked with the young people and having an understanding of what goes on with a lot of young people, they could not have done what they did to another child in that school. Another child probably would never have allowed that. So it makes me wonder if this child was just used as a scapegoat, as an example, to what could happen, not realizing that eventually this would come out, and hence all these discussions.
Thank you, Vicky. We don't know what the situation was, but I do agree that I think that, you know, maybe child Q was a quiet child, a quiet grade 8 student, doing well, you know, and she was used as a scapegoat, you know, because when you think about, you know, we've all been 15 before, and I know times were different then, but you know, there are some children that, and I think Tony will know this, and so will you, Lincoln. There's some, and Theo, some children in school that the teachers don't know. Just leave that child alone. Don't even bother, because that child will just kick off in such a way that it's just no point, right? So obviously, child Q was not that child.
Yes,
Q weren't that child. You know,
and I think on the other hand, I think also parents. I think Lincoln mentioned that some parents just will not come to the school. They would, you know. I think where we could start with trying to protect our children in schools is that parents join the School of Governors.
yes.
Black parents join the School of Governors, because I don't know the format of that school, but if there was a black parent on that board, the issue would have had to be discussed, and then it would have been brought out sooner than it has been.
Yeah.
But I think that's either we as black people become teachers, or parents become school governors. So we're policing the teachers.
Yeah, I think that's a good
we
point.
begin to protect our children.
I think
still would say we don't have enough voices in the school. I mean, as I said, I'm an experienced teacher who can tell you, I don't see enough black representation in school. I don't see enough black representation in the board of governors. I have this conversation on on an education panel every other week, and it comes to the table every time, about parents joining the school of governors. It's just not happening. And more so to the point now that we're seeing black teachers leaving education in droves.
That's true.
Yeah, they are coming in, but they soon find out how institutionally racist it is. And trust me, I experience it all the time. Because trust me, every week I have to come up to somebody and say something about some part of curriculum, about some certain something someone said about something or somebody, or you know, and it's just the kids. My love of kids is so great. It's them that makes me overcome the institution, because I have to almost blind myself as a teacher to the education system and say, you know what, I'm just being with them kids. When I'm with my children, the education system means nothing, because they're just plugging into my brain and I'm feeding them. But there's not enough of me. As I said, black teachers are leaving the profession in droves. Look at the rates of dropout of black students at university. Again, the highest number are black students. Why? Black students are clever enough to get to university, but they're not clever enough to stay there. Why?
Theo, come in.
As I said, it goes back to, as you said earlier, Tony. I think about the system. The system is set in a way that it doesn't matter. I know black teachers, as you all know. I live with a black teacher. My wife's a head teacher. So, and I know plenty. A lot of my family members are teachers. That doesn't make a difference being on the inside. It doesn't make a difference being on the inside, because it's not the inside that's the problem. It's the system that's the problem. The whole picture is the problem. It's not just dealing with, as Tony says, I work in schools. Tony work in schools. You see it and you hear it. But that's because people have their minds have been conditioned that way to think that way. So if somebody's thought that way, they're not going to change because someone is challenging them and telling them this is wrong. Because what they can see and how we're portrayed as a people is negative. So there's a stereotype about us, as I think Lincoln was saying, about lazy and all this stuff. Same thing when footballers played back in the 70s. They're lazy, they're this. Then we had the free guys come through and show them that, no, we're this way. And then they changed their mindset. So we need to start from young, have a program set in place. So when these 5-year-olds become 15-year-olds and become 25-year-olds and 35-year-olds, their mindset's already been changed because they've been programmed that they understand that we're all the same, we're any different, we're all human beings, we all have the same ups and downs and have the same challenges, because that's how the system will change. We can go on the inside. You can look, we had police commissioners, wasn't there an Asian guy a few years ago? Was an Asian guy. What difference did he make? Didn't make a difference. We have black politicians. We've got black people sending out ourselves in positions of power. What's the guy name that wrote the report? Sewell, whatever his name is. How can you write a report like that and inspect it? Then what do you expect? If a black man's writing a report like that, what does that say to the rest of the society? Then it's okay to treat us how we are. Because there is no racism. A black guy wrote that. You can't say we are racist because it wasn't a white guy that wrote it. It was a black guy that wrote it. We know it was commissioned by Boris, but it doesn't matter. The fact that he still felt confident enough to say, I'm going to write this, shows where we're at. So from him writing that, that's just giving them the green light to do it and say what they want, because the system is not institutional, it's not racist. Because a black guy said it's not racist. And it's a black guy supposedly reputable, respected. Did he start The Voice or something like that? I don't remember what this guy's done. But
Yes, he used to write The Voice.
Yeah, so he's supposed to be a respected voice for the people. And he's written this report. So what can they say? What can we say? He sold us down the river.
He sold us,
he was given an opportunity to correct some wrongs, and he didn't take it.
No.
And now
I'm going to jump in there. Dr. Tony Sewell he's now turned into pariah, because we all knew what he was talking about was a load of rubbish. And we all knew that it was Boris Johnson that pushed him into that position. Just like we've got Priti Patel there, being as draconian as she can do when it comes to black and brown people coming into the country. We've got no space for them. There's no more housing and jobs and blah, blah, blah. Kicked off in Ukraine, and we're having thousands of them pour across the border. Oh, the poor people because they're blonde-haired and blue-eyed. Well, Tony Sewell turned around and said there's no more institutional racism, within the police or the education system, and black people turned on him. I would not want to be Tony Sewell. I'm guessing that 75%, 80% of people that probably would have invited him places are saying no, we don't want to see that guy. So for me, and I'm going to challenge you again, Theo. Right? You're saying, we should work on the young kids, and the 5-year-olds are going to be the 10-year-olds, and the 10-year-olds are going to be 15-year-olds. And I agree with you, but you can't do one without the other. You've got to be within the system, being the people that are encouraging the kids to stay within education. And Tony said, yeah, that our kids are leaving university. Well, you know, there are some people who are there who are black lecturers who are encouraging some of the kids to stay. Not every kid who goes into university leaves, and it's not because they want to stay. Sometimes it's because there's somebody black there saying, you know what, hang on in there. Yeah, you've got to hold on. I'm telling you, I'm making a difference. So whether you believe me or not, then that's up to whoever wants to believe it or not. But I am saying to my kids, you know what, you can do better. And I'll give you an example. I teach a class, and in that class, there were like some kids who were coming from level 2 into level 3. And they told me that they were told in their level 2, don't try, because you've got to go for grades from D to A. And they were told by their previous teachers, who were white, don't go for anything above the D grade. Only do the D grade. That's what you need so that you can pass the course and we can say that we've done our jobs. And I turn around and said, you know what? You've now made it to level 3, and I'm expecting you to go for the A and the A star. And I taught them to that. So much so that some of them, my curriculum manager was saying, you know what, they're doing some really good work. We can now kind of put them on for the full qualification, yeah, not just the award. So I know that I'm making a difference, yeah. So people can say what they want, but I'm in there doing what I need to do. I'm in the trenches making a difference.
I didn't say we shouldn't join it. I'm saying to change the system. As I said, my wife's a head teacher. I work in education. I'm not saying we don't join it, but that's not going to change it.
It's helping, though.
That's not going to helping, but it's not going to change it. We need to change the system. The system is, as Tony said, it's been designed this way from slavery. So the only way we can change it is from the grassroots. Us as the older generation has gone through the system and fought and got ourselves into a position where we are now in positions to become teachers and head teachers and whatever positions we're in. We fought the way through, but the system is still broken, even worse now than when we were younger. So
yeah, I agree.
So we have to change it, and we have to do something different. We can't keep doing the same thing.
If you keep doing the same thing, it's madness, isn't it? If you keep doing the same thing and getting the same result, that's madness.
And that's what we're getting. Okay, there's more people going to universities, more of us doing these things. But when they step out of university, they're still walking into the craziness of the society. We're still having to fight to get a job. We're still having to fight to do this. We still have, even if you've got your degrees and your doctorate and all these stuff, you still have to fight to get it. It's not like, oh, I've got this now, I'm going to be accepted. They're still looking at the paper, seeing your name and saying, oh, ethnicity, ooh, I'm not too sure. So as much as we're fighting,
your name's Kahinde, you know, they see your name is Kahinde or they see your name's Femi, you know, you ain't getting that looking.
They get what we'll take one.
We
of
know
you.
that.
We'll take one of you, not two of you.
Take one.
Theo, your wife is making a difference because your wife is a head teacher, isn't she?
What I'm trying to say, Lincoln, I know this making a difference, but what I'm trying to say is we need to change. Making a difference.
Of course, we need a change. I'm agreeing.
That's why I said we need to start from the young. We need to start from the younger age, just like the LGBT. So how is the LGBTQ and the transvestites and all those? How have they been accepted? They've gone into schools at a young age and they've spoken. They have PHAC class accepting us, accepting same sex, accepting these things. So as these kids get older now, they're accepting it. It's part of their acceptance. So if we've got a program set that we say, look, we're black, we're this, accept us how we are. These white kids and all these, they become adults. Their mindsets have been changed from young because they've had this program pushed to them. So in 10, 15 years time, when they become the policemen and the magistrates and the judges, their mindset has been changed. That's the way they do it. That's how they do it for everything else.
I think
that's
that
how you change racism. Because racism doesn't start with a 5-year-old, because young kids don't see color.
Of course not.
They don't see color. So obviously at home, something is being fed to them by their parents, the television, what they see in society, the music, and all these different things that's feeding them. So their mindset's being coerced. So if we now have a program that says, look, we're going to go into schools, we're going to do this. Yes, the older ones like us, we still do our bit to help the ones that are older, but we have to start from the young. We have to do something different. We can't keep doing the same thing. It's because it's not working.
What happened to our Saturday schools?
But the
They
Saturday
still
schools,
exist.
but the Saturday
They're still
schools are
there.
only, but the Saturday schools are only for us as Black people. It's not going to help. It's to inspire us, but it doesn't change the system.
So just on that one, Vicky, can I just give Vicky the update on Saturday schools? Anybody who's watching this show and wants to know where Saturday schools are, go on www.nabss.com. That's NABS, NAB, the National Association of Black Supplementary Schools.com, run by my very good friend. And all the schools up and down the country are listed, and organizations such as Manhood Academy, Westside Young Leaders Academy, 100 Black Men of London, you name it, they're all in there.
Right, can someone type that on the chat, please? Tiny, can you give that again, please?
It's www.nabss.com, nabs.com, the National Association of Black Supplementary Schools. And there are loads, they're everywhere.
Okay, lovely. Thank you, Kellyanne, for putting that. Is that right? Is that right? N-A-B... No, that's right.
And www.nabss.com.
Yeah.
.com, not co.uk.
No.
Minute.
Can you redo that for me, please? Thank you very much. Listen, guys, we've come to the end of the show, right?
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, the time has gone. But this, I have to say, has been one of the best, for me, I think, discussions that we've had in a while, even though we haven't been on for a while. My input to the end of the show is we need every component to make this vehicle drive. A vehicle cannot just run on water. It needs oil, it needs air in the tires, it needs lots and lots of different things in order for it to drive and get to its destination. And we as a people, we as a community, we need all the components to work together. So that is, working with the young ones, working with the older ones, working with the ones who are called the naughty children, work all aspects of our community in every area. We need a leader. We do. We need to come together. We need to work in unity. We know this, but now is the time for us to stop talking and put this into action. And that is what I take away from this. We have to be seen to be protecting our own children. We have to take this very seriously. If you know of a parent who is not there for their child, then we also then need to maybe step up and be the auntie, the uncle, or whatever for that child. If you are in education and you notice the parents, you might see them, you might know them, and you notice that they're not paying much notice to their children, have a word with them. Find out what the issues are. I think it was Mags that said earlier on, in terms of us going into getting into the schools and all of that. I think she was saying that some Black parents want to join and become governors, but they feel that they're out of their depth. Then we need to work with them. We need to encourage them. We need to help them with their confidence just as much as we need to help the children with their confidence. Because maybe if it was a different girl, maybe if it was Child Q had more confidence to speak out and say what she felt at the time, maybe she would have said no. Maybe she would have screamed at the top of her voice. Maybe. Our children are not confident. Some are and some aren't. It's up to us to help them to be more confident as parents. It starts with us. Everything starts with us, where we are now, and then it then goes out into the wider community. And that is my input for, and also with what Tony said, representation matters. It does. It's very important for our children to see their reflection, teaching them, being around them, motivating them, helping them, and instilling goodness into them. It's very, very important. And so representation. So again, represent who you are. Men represent men, women represent women, and we both together come to represent the family, which is under attack. We are going to be having another show in regards to the family, and I would like to invite you all. I know Kels is doing his studies and all that, but I would like to invite you, this panel, back on. I like this panel. It works very well. And even with the little piece of spice, you know, we have to have a little piece of spice, isn't it, Tony? Right? It makes the show, make it very interesting. Yes. Right. So, guys, we are over time, 4 minutes over, but I want to thank you. For those of you who stepped in, Theo and Lincoln, especially, and Tony and Kellyon and Vicky, to support me, guys, I want to thank you. And we will be doing a show on the family and how we start to build that back together, because it's something that's been laying on my heart for a long, long time. So I really want to tackle that. So in the next couple of weeks, we will do that. But as for next week, unless somebody wants to run the show for me, anyway. The silence is deafening. Right, so next week there won't be a show. I will. I'm away next week, so there won't be a show unless one of the panel members want to step up and run the show, run whatever show they want, within a talk show. If they want to do that, they can. So, guys, I want to thank you, guys at home, those of you on Facebook, those of you on YouTube, and those of you who are in the group, the After Dark group. I want to thank you for supporting and being here. Do tell your friends that this is on every Tuesday, apart from next week. Every Tuesday we have discussions like this, and we have panels members as well. If you would like to be a panel member, please let me know, DM me, and we will talk and sort that out. But for now, guys,
ciao.
we're going to say ciao. We're going to say ciao, and I'm going to take one more picture.
Good night.
Smile, please. Smile. There we go. Let's take a picture. Panel. Okay, guys. Ciao. Good night.
Bye.
Hold on. Let's do this.
Wait, they can go anyway.
Huh?